Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And today we are going to talk about the impact of the Julio Jones trade from Atlanta to Tennessee. Who are the winners and losers in this trade for fantasy? We're going to talk about them. I got to say, I got three players. Massive upgrade. So you want to check it out. Here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And before we begin, I'd just like to remind you all, if you haven't done so already, please click the like button, share, leave a comment, share this with your friends, and of course, subscribe. I appreciate any feedback you can give me on the podcast. And if you find this information useful, if you want to talk about players or whatever, please leave me a note. But today we're going to talk about the big news, man. The big thing that just came out regarding Julio Jones getting traded to the Tennessee Titans. And who are the winners and losers of this scenario? I got to tell you, there are some big winners here. But let's just start out with Julio Jones and what are his prospects. As far as I can see, by judging every other impact on every other player, Julio Jones is the biggest loser in this scenario. Now, he's not a loser because he's moving to a good situation on a good team that could potentially have Super Bowl consequences. So that's good for him. That's what he wants. He's going to get his full rate of pay. So he's still earning his like $15.6 million a year. So that's fine for him. But for fantasy purposes, this is a downgrade. And we know that Tennessee is a run-first offense. There's a guy called Derrick Henry. You ever heard of him? This team runs through Derrick Henry. And so there's not as much passing volume. Last year, I don't think Ryan Tannehill even had 500 pass attempts. So when you're going from someone like Matt Ryan, who will easily do 600 pass attempts in a season, to someone who's going to do maybe 100 less, that's going to have an impact on all the receivers around him. So Julio Jones' projections right now, I had to reduce his projections from, I think he was at about 127 targets, which is a pretty decent volume. That's a high wide receiver too. But now I got him down to about 117 targets. So he's still a 2, but he's a low 2 now, just on the volume. And his production line decreased as well. I got him going for 78 catches, 1,094 yards, 6 touchdowns. Right now, in my app, he's currently valued as my 51st most valuable player overall. And he is my wide receiver 24. So basically, he is a low-end 2. And he is overvalued relative to his draft position right now, because he's still going in the 30s. 38th overall is where he's being selected, but his value's in the 50s. So obviously he's not a great choice. He's not a good choice for fantasy football. He's moving to a new situation here. He's got new coaches, new quarterback. He's played his whole career with Matt Ryan, and now he's going to someone else. So my point here is Julio Jones is not the guy I want to be holding this fantasy season. I'm going to probably be avoiding him in basically every league I have. Also, the guy's 32. There's just not a lot of upside here. So I would say stay away from Julio Jones. Now, for me, the biggest winner of this trade is his former teammate, Calvin Ridley, who before, when I was looking at the Atlanta receiver core, I'm like, wow, it's really crowded. There's a lot of people there. You got Julio, you got Kyle Pitts. How's that going to shake out? But Ridley basically goes from he is my second most valuable wide receiver now that he moved up because Julio Jones left. More targets have moved over to Calvin Ridley. So I actually have him projected with 152 targets, which is outstanding wide receiver 1 volume. I got him projected with 95 receptions, 1,381 yards, 8 touchdowns. He is rating out right now as my top rated receiver. So as far as targets, who I would like to target right now, if I take a receiver in like the second round, I'll tell you, man, Calvin Ridley is going to be a top target of mine. He rates overall as the best receiver right now, as far as the early elite receivers go, and that supplants AJ Brown. AJ Brown was previously rated as my best receiver, but now it's Calvin Ridley. So anyway, he is the 7th most valuable player overall. This is Ridley. He's still being selected at pick number 19, so he hasn't really moved on the charts. I expect him to move up, but to be able to get someone like Ridley at the 19th right now, that's fantastic. I mean, geez, can you imagine if you've got like a mid-round pick, like you pick 6th or 7th, and so you come around the horn there, and Calvin Ridley's still sitting on the board at this point. That's fantastic. I love Calvin Ridley right now. Absolutely a target. I actually had him listed as a regression candidate. I removed the regression. There's not a regression risk here now. This is I'm all in on Calvin Ridley. I love what happened with this situation. Another player that kind of went down just a little bit. I'm not calling him a loser on this trade. This obviously is going to help him in different aspects, but A.J. Brown gets a slight downgrade as a result of Julio Jones coming on this team. So I've reduced his volume. I did have him projected at 152 targets. He is now at 137 targets. Still rock solid. Really excellent. That's excellent volume for a wide receiver. He is my number 8th most valuable receiver overall. So he's right behind Calvin Ridley. He is still being selected at number 17 overall, and I would expect that A.J. Brown's ADP will move down a bit, and I think that's good as well. I was seeing A.J. Brown a lot of times going in the very early second round. So, like pick 13, 14, right in that range. But now, number 17, he might even, I would expect to see him fall behind, like Calvin Ridley to move up ahead of A.J. Brown. So we could even see A.J. Brown in this 19, 20 range for ADP. But I think he's still a great choice. I'm excited about where he is, contract year, upside. Julio Jones is an aging player. We don't know about, durability issues, but, again, A.J. Brown, I'm still in on. I still like him, not as much as I did before, but I think he's still a very, very good choice if you go early on wide receivers. Now, there are 2 big winners right now that I really, really like as a result of this whole trade situation. And the first person is the guy that was kind of the odd man out in Atlanta, but Russell Gage now moves up into the number 2 wide receiver position. And last year, I don't know if you remember, but he had 110 targets as a result of Julio being out for such an extended period of time. So that is kind of his upside. And 110 targets is a flex value player. I do not have him projected with 110 targets right now. I think he's projected with about 95, 96 targets. So I'm being very conservative there. But right now, he is being taken at about pick 180. I'm going to expect this to move up, but he is showing fantastic value as someone you can get very, very late in your draft. He is not a startable player right now. Like his projections, 64 catches, 691 yards, 4 touchdowns. That projects him as my wide receiver 59. But again, with the kind of volume we're talking about, the upside is there. And it is a contract year for him, so he is motivated to outperform. I got to tell you what, man, I really like this. I like this play. Russell Gage is on my radar right now, and I think he is an excellent, excellent choice for someone that you could take late. You can take very late as a flyer, and the upside is there. He's proven that he can perform with a higher volume of play, higher volume. And, last year he had almost 800 yards receiving. So, we're talking someone that could be in the flex conversation on a week-to-week basis right now. So Russell Gage, love him. I also love Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill has all of a sudden rocketed up to my quarterback 6 in value. And it's not hard to see why. His passing options have gotten significantly better than they were last year. Having both Julio and A.J. Brown on the same team is good for good for Ryan. It's good for Ryan Tannehill. So he is being selected at ADP 109. So this is a guy, I don't even think he's a top 12 quarterback, but he's offering a mid-range QB1 upside. So he is absolutely on my target list now. So you gotta take advantage of that. So those are the guys I really wanted to talk about. The one guy who I just can't get a determination either way is the rookie Kyle Pitts. And I just feel that Pitts is getting overhyped. This is only going to add fuel to the fire. You know, the tight end position is the toughest position in the NFL for a player to advance to. That's why it takes 2 or 3 seasons before you start to see tight ends emerge as viable fantasy players. And you know, I've already talked about, I invite you to go look at my tight end video that I did last month. But tight ends, you know, the volume is crap. Their value is crap, and it's still crap for him. You know, right now, his ADP right away has been moving up substantially. He's now at ADP number 66. So he's basically the 6th tight end coming off the board. He is valued as my tight end 6, but his value rank is 97th overall. So he's massively overvalued relative to his draft position. And just to give you a comparison, you can sacrifice just a little bit of value and get Logan Thomas in like the 9th round, and he's going to do almost as good projection-wise as Kyle Pitts is. So, you know, it's like, do I really want to spend a 6th-round pick on a guy that's only going to get, you know, maybe 60 to 70 catches, 700 to 800 yards, you know, and maybe, you know, 5-6 touchdowns? You know, it's hard for me to really get on the Kyle Pitts train. He's the one guy that I just really can't, just because the rookie situation. I'd rather take a proven commodity in the tight end position. I've already talked about like how like Darren Waller is kind of like my overall target as a 3rd-round player. So, you know, because with him, you're at least going to get elite level volume. You're going to get like 130 plus targets to Darren Waller. You're not going to get that with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is going to maybe max out at about 110 targets. So, you know, you're talking, you know, again, 60 to 70 receptions, maybe in the low 70s. Not quite as valuable as TJ Hawkinson or Mark Andrews. I'd rather have Andrews, frankly, than any of those 3. But they're all terrible value. It's terrible value. So I can't really recommend him. But so the guys you need to look for on your draft board as a result of this trade: Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, Ryan Tannehill. Those are the 3 biggest winners of this trade. I love all of them. They're all getting upgraded in my app. And actually, by the way, just want to mention, my app is live right now. So it's still, you know, getting some final things put into it, but it's active and it works. And these adjustments have already been made. And that's one of the nice things about the app is when you go in there, just every time you use it, just reload, just do a refresh of your page, and it'll reload it with all the latest information. So the stats, the projections have already been adjusted. The impact on the players, you know, like I said, with Calvin Ridley, removed the regression tag, so that boosted his outlook. That helped boost him up the ratings anyway. Those things are all live and happening on the app, so you can see the impact. And now all of a sudden, Calvin Ridley is my top recommended wide receiver. So that's how the app works. So it's pretty nice that it does that. So I invite you to go to my website, fantasyfootballmaverick.com. That's where the app lives. You can access the app for free just by signing up. And if you like it, you can unlock all the features of the app just by subscribing. It's just $19.95 for the season. You can use it on as many drafts as you are in. It's very, very helpful. And when this sort of stuff happens, this sort of shuffling happens, it's going to be implemented almost immediately into the app so that you can see the impact on what players you should be targeting. There was another player who Robbie Anderson is another player this week that I've been very high on. I very much like his situation in Carolina, but it smells like there's a holdout in process here. He didn't go to OTAs. He's deleted all of the Carolina Panthers stuff from his social media. Sounds like he's asking for a trade unless they can give him a good deal, a good extension. So he got downgraded. So I put the holdout tag on him. That reduced his outlook. That changed him to a 2-star outlook player, which is a non-recommended player. So he's just kind of fallen off the list, even though he was one of my favorite options in the 7th, 8th round. Now he's not, and I'm just going to keep him there until that situation gets resolved. But again, it's in the app. It's already calculated into their value, and this stuff all impacts their VORC score, which adjusts where they are on the draft board when you need to pick players, when do you need to take a certain specific player. So anyway, that's what's going on. So anyway, thank you very much for watching today. This is all very exciting and interesting. It'll be interesting to see if this happens with Aaron Rodgers. That would have a huge impact on a large number of players, and so we'll see if that even happens. My personal opinion is he's not going to play this year. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. We will be back on Thursday with another podcast. But in the meantime, please, if you have any questions about these players or if you want to talk about any other players, leave them in the comments down below, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Have a good day, everybody.